holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up for brekkie, lunch, or dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. They just drop them at your door, people. You'll save time and eat well. You'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while taking all of your holiday to-dos in stride with good meals in the tum-tum. If you're too busy with all this stuff, these meals are easy to get done. They taste great. All you've got to do is head over to factormeals.com/expandingreality50 and use code expandingreality50 to get 50% off. That's code expandingreality50 at factormeals.com/expandingreality50 to get 50% off.
A choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this episode, Greg Sullivan comes by. He is the director of JCETI, which is the Japanese CSETI program that he actually founded in 2010. He is a researcher, an author, an experiencer, a musician, and an all-around amazing guy. This episode, we talk Hollow Earth, mass contact, UFOs, spirituality, the nine-tailed spirit fox, suicide forest, Japan's hidden esoteric history. So many cool things that you guys are absolutely going to love this conversation. So before we get to that, check the show notes as well for our affiliate links. So Food Forest Abundance, get your freedom from fear on. Also, if you'd like to start your own podcast, Libsyn, that link will give you 2 months for free. Also, if you were going to buy anything at all on Amazon, feed that beast through our affiliate link. It helps the show, right? For something you're going to do anyway, ideally. Also down there is going to be the resource link Opus, which is the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, a great resource. So you guys definitely check that out as well. Now, if you'd like to expand your experience with us here on the show, you can do so at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's where links to all the socials are. If you want to support the show, we have an expansive insider type of a deal going on over there that you guys can check out. We also have all the way too hot for YouTube stuff going on over there. So check those out. Lives are replayed for free. Episodes are out earlier over there. Damn near 99.9% of that thing is absolutely free. So you guys just go check it out and sign up. Okay, well, let's get to this incredible conversation. You guys are absolutely going to love him. Let's bring him to it. Greg Sullivan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming to the show, we have Greg Sullivan hanging out with us. Now, you are the director of JCETI. I cannot wait to talk to you. You are a Xiaoma hookup, and I love this planet because of the way this stuff works. You are so cool. So I can't wait, again, to get into this with you. I'm grateful we connected, brother. So, Greg, if you don't mind, just for my audience, you have an incredible resume. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, brother.
Thanks, Brandon. Great to meet you. It's always a pleasure to connect with fellow Americans here. I live full time in Japan, and I'm 100%, 110%, involved with my work and speaking Japanese every day. So it's so exciting to be sharing our stories and our connections, overseas like this. And what a great show you've got! A great, I love the censorship aversion and all the other alternative places you've made it for good content to be shared. Thank you.
Grateful, brother. Thank you for your kind words, man. Just before we move on, is there a way to say expanding reality in Japanese?
Good question. Kakudai shiteru genjutsu. Yeah, kakudai shiteru genjutsu.
Easily one of the coolest damn things. How phonetically pleasing is that? All right, cool. I'm going to cut that into something later.
I'll send you the phonetic. Yeah, I'll send you the alphabetical translation of that. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Well, I'm grateful. Thank you again.
No problem.
Please. So what got you over to Japan in the first place?
Yeah, I'm originally just like you, originally a music student and musician and sound engineer. And my journey began, I was planning to live abroad and study abroad since high school. I originally studied in France, in northern France, a little bit in college. And then, sights turned to further places. So Japan was definitely on the radar as far as being able to live and work here. I wanted more of a sustainable experience, not just travel or anything. So my first destination became New Zealand. So I was there for about a half a year and ended up working on my first album there. And then just naturally with some amazing connections I made there, I transitioned into going to Japan. And when I just never left, my good friend from elementary school was there for a year. And we both climbed Mount Fuji together as him and his current wife were leaving. And so it all just blossomed from there. So I know it's a place I didn't have a lot of connections to in the early part of this life, but I know that a lot of people have come in, and I've confirmed big time now that I had a lot of past life connections here. And this whole journey has been really directed on the soul level for sure.
My God, this is interesting. Okay, so now we have to know, what was your immediate past life in Japan before the one you've got now?
Well, that's the funny thing. It was regarding when I'm more into the ninjas, actually. I was a Nintendo
Awesome.
child, maybe as you were in the very first years of Nintendo. But the samurai warriors, they protected the kings and the local feudal leaders, as you might know. And so there's several famous battles in Japanese history, and one of the most famous was an incident where the two fighters met on a deserted island that was not far from the shores of Western Japan. So that's really the area I first landed, actually. And long story short is I had a couple psychics or people telling me, when I look at you, I see the chonmage, which is the long hair braid, and they're telling me, why am I hearing the word Ganyu-jima, this island, the Ganyu Island? And then they ended up the day I went there, it was the 400th anniversary of the battle to that day. And
Damn.
so anyway, it turned out that I was the guy who got I lost the battle. But there are a few kind of hidden theories about that, where it was actually not 1-on-1; it was actually like 25-1. So I was one of the strongest fighters or samurai in Japanese history there, apparently. And so and anyway, yeah. So that sort of anchored my soul to that area, and kind of the message I got in the few after that years later was that because I had this sort of untimely death or sort of like a death by conspiracy, if you might say, it was a trap, that I've been given, I had a seat here sort of, to do this spiritual work here in this life.
So cool, man. I love this. I knew I was going to like you. This just keeps getting better. So from Ninja then, did you ever... So let me ask you this. How long have you been investigating high strangeness phenomena, been interested in this stuff since how long in your life, in this life?
Oh, definitely a long time. It's ever since I was a young child interested in these kind of things. And I had a couple amazing kickoff incidents via two books. One of them was written by someone in my dad's office in New York, and it was an unpublished work at the time. He actually, I think, is in Texas doing, he does paranormal research, a guy called Ken Hudnall. And he wrote this amazing book called The Occult Connection. It was, I think, pretty ahead of its time. He's, my dad was not interested, of course, so he passed it right off to me. And it was sort of like a template for everything. It had, Project Grudge and all the Area 51 stuff, or the early kind of information about the military and the Greys and abductions and all that stuff. And it was sort of like spooky and super interesting at the same time. And then, he even got into, all of the stuff that we hear about now with the deep state and all the anything and everything from entertainment to, secret societies, ancient histories. It was a whole, ran the gamut of all the subgenres that kind of tie in together. So that was one part of it. And then I actually went as far as contacting, they had a couple of numbers in there for the abductee groups who ended up, I now know were probably my lab victims because they were right near the White Sands missile test range in New Mexico. And so I ended up calling one of the numbers in the book, and then they got back to me, and that's when my parents sort of stepped in and said, no, we didn't need to have this book to go that far. Please stop.
How old were you again?
I was in like probably freshman in high school, maybe like late junior high, like 16, 15. 14, 15. So I had a really interesting, and at the time I was, we were reading Tom Clancy, Red October, and then all those Patriot games and all those huge books. We were avid readers, my friends and I, as children. So I had that sort of disclosure background for a long, long time. And then what solidified it next was in a couple of years later, discovering the amazing classic by William Brownlee called The Gods of Eden. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's like a huge one. So that was like just like jaw dropping, and it really kind of grounded in a lot of the topics. Put roots to a lot of the ideas that were put forth in the occult connection there. Yeah, so that was really my start from a information and research level.
It's amazing. Yeah, and you kind of went the way I did with it, with like your Jordan Maxwell's and William Cooper's and stuff like that, where you find out some really cool stuff. Plus you're doing UFO things, and it's all amazing. Like you said, super fun and interesting. So whenever you were interested in the spiritual stuff and these esoteric concepts back in the US before you moved to Japan, did you ever have any inkling of like a calling toward Japan or any sort of past life, either psychic or remembrance or recall or anything like that while in the States at all? Like hindsight, kind of looking back?
Yeah. Good question. I did have one thing, which was what they call the sound of the language. And people are surprised, like I didn't study it all. How did you pick up? That's a lot of things. A lot of people bring in skills and skills and gifts from past lives. And mine, 100% mine is the language of Japanese. I had no study at all. So I picked it up. I have a strong listening ear from being a sound engineer. And so the sound of it, really the resonance and the tone of it, it sounds so cool. It sounded so cool to me. And that was in there, again, the same time period, junior high school, early high school, where a local independent movie theater was bringing in a lot of Japanese anime films. And my friend, a good friend of mine, the friend who actually lived in Japan for a year, him and his older brother were lending me a lot of crazy anime videos on VHS too. So just hearing the sound of Japanese at that time was my first kind of portal to it. But otherwise I had absolutely no connection at all. And it was just a really, really organic process to meet a couple of Japanese people from that area in New Zealand. And then I figured, hey, well, they're going home and my friend's there. So it's, I cut my time short in NZ and went up to Japan.
It's amazing. It's serendipitous, of course. I mean, this is just so cool. Again, hindsight, right? Looking back. So you're also an experiencer. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. At the time, again, it's the experiences start, they involved, I guess you could say, like etheric contact or remote viewing incidents and dream contact all through the years. I kind of really always doubted my intuition. I think working as an artist helped to really increase my focus and kind of prime up those psi skills as well in hindsight. But it all was really quite sudden. So in the end, in 2007, my initial kind of catalyst experience into the world of my actual experience was a visit to Mount Adams, the ET SPI ranch in Washington. So we always love going there. And that was, I had seen a couple things before that, of course, but with the UFO sightings and actual ships, they move so fast that you don't really even realize what you're looking at. So that was my first education in sort of sky watching and a really breakthrough experience. So after that really started a cascade of paranormal things, and just kind of that from then on it's been a continual flow since 2007.
It's amazing. What is the most intense one that you've ever had?
Wow, too many to count. I think the biggest thing now is that I'm a sort of a navigator, or sort of an ET contact guide, you might call it. So seeing others really turn on is one of the biggest pleasures. And so the phenomenon ranges the gamut. So it's not always, and the funny thing is, it's not always about how, we initially might think how strong it is, how bright it is, how loud it is, the bigger the better. That's not always the case. It's such a personal experience that these other worldly beings and interdimensional beings have an amazing way to find exactly what that person needs to push forward their spiritual development. So seeing people have those realizations and breakthroughs right in front of you is amazing.
It's amazing. That's a great answer. Again, great dude. So tell me about the ranch.
It's quite well known. I mean, it's not far from the Mount Adams, which is a dormant volcano in southern Washington. So I was there for a wedding. My best friend and was getting married in Portland. All of our good friends from school were there, and so I spent about 2 weeks there. And just Google Maps had just arrived on the scene. So I typed in the word, and it turns out it was just a couple hours from my friend's house. And so, in the end, and last day before going back to Japan, I went over there, and just with 4 or 5 hours, I was there for late afternoon, evening, and into the night, and then I went back to my friend's house for a very early flight the next day. So it's a huge field. They call it the Field of Dreams, and thousands of people have come in and out of there and have their own experience with this amazing dimensional phenomenon. The ground lights on the mountain, which have been called the Yakima lights in the past, and have been researched in that area. And also, all the ships in the sky. So it was quite an amazing time. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Now, you said that it's very personal, and I agree with you. And that's why I meant profound, like the most profound experience you've had, your personal profound experience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I didn't phrase it properly.
Oh, okay. Actually, let's see. Thanks to, the amazing thing about the ECETI ranch was that on first glance, it's, the UFO skywatching ranch. But actually, at the same place, the owner James Gilland, he shows a lot of he does a cool work. His private session or his group work is called a TPR session, and it's like a way to connect interdimensionally with the beings energetically. So I think one of the most over the years, learning how to do that ourselves and connecting with past loved ones and kind of like working on family issues together with loved ones who have crossed over was amazing. One of them was in Japan. One of the places that's most sensitive to ancestors and elders is Okinawa, the islands of Okinawa, which is like the Hawaii of Japan. It's south of the main islands of Japan. Location of Karate Kid and Karate Kid 2 and whatever. Yeah. So a lot of U.S. military presence, a lot of World War II history there, of course. But they're very. So I was there with a young kind of shaman. She grew up in the tradition of priestess women, and so she's very close to my age, mid 40s. And so I stayed at her. We were filming a video together, and we stayed at her office. And the first night I was there alone, and I'm looking out over the sacred island, probably the number one sacred spot in all of Japan. It's a small flat island called Kudaka, not far from Okinawa. And I'm looking at the island, and I started to connect with my guides and whatnot. And all of a sudden, I knew who was coming in was my cousin Brian, who passed away suddenly in LA. So I spent a lot of time with him before developing this project. And what was so crazy is that I had a premonition or an incident where we were given a musical song that his wife could then connect with him after he passed. But this was like, obviously none of us knew that was going to happen. So in the short time we were together before I returned to Japan, it was so strange because he's looking at me like, why are you sharing that music with my wife and not me? And it was sort of a strange moment. And then afterwards, years later, he suddenly passes and it was like a message from, you can use this track to then connect with him. So he came in and reconfirmed that. And we confirmed the fact that he was now a star being, actually like a Syrian guide. And then we proceeded to do an enormous clearing on the Sullivan family, which had, whether that be, old hurts and misconceptions, and all the stuff that goes on in a family. So, and so that was pretty mind blowing.
It's incredible, and I love the concept of ancestor healing based on now, and it's all quantum physics, and I love this, so I'm grateful that you're into it as well.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep quickly, getting beyond the dimensions, yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. And then, your mind, it's mind-blowing. Just think of this place. Just think of human bodies that you've had here, or even like a human and maybe like a giraffe or something in one life, and all the other ones were human, but they were all here. You were all very human. But then to kind of extrapolate that out to now your other beings' lives, because maybe now your Syrian cousin,
yep.
he now will have to clear his human life maybe in some Syrian life now that he's doing that. Maybe he had a few things left over here. So you're like, I got this human stuff I got to still deal with. That's
exactly.
It's amazing. It's mind-blowing how deep this thing goes. So how do you keep it from being so convoluted? How do you keep it straight to where you're just like, yeah, that connects to this, and then that's how you do that? Have you been given clear guidance from this, or is this just intuitive?
Just it's experiential. When they come in, they bring in the next piece of the puzzle, and so we've also had people like literally who took part in our events. Made contact in the field with us, and then passed over, and then they would reconnect as spirit, or and then become an ET guide or whatnot. So it's a whole new breed of guides, you might say. I call it the newly ascended humans. But then they always bring in a piece which of their story, and that helps us learn, like, once you go past this point, you can do this, or they needed to clear this before they did that, or whatever. So it's quite a complex phenomenon. Yeah.
How clear of messaging can you get from your cousin? His name is Brian, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How clear messaging?
Well, when he came in, it was like, he blew me over. I almost fell over. It was so strong, and just exploded into tears, it was an instant recognition, and it was a traumatic passing he had. That's a whole other story, but basically, it's subtle impressions, and it's developing the ability to catch hints and impressions it's a part of the side training, you might call it, is that you start to realize that you're always picking up, information from the outside world. So you kind of learn how to split the two streams, and you make you learn how to make your own conscious stream kind of neutral and flat, and bring that noise down, and then bring the signal, the signal to noise ratio we talk about in audio. So they're bringing up the signal of the guides and these other beings. So once we're strongly connected, they have an open channel, an open forum to share what they will. And, it was a natural flow for us to get into the clearing, and the things that they have access to as from the ship or whatever. So it's a powerful, bringing in their technology. And so it goes beyond a personal support, like, I think they want to reach the most people they can at one time. So it was the right timing. He was brought forward by other beings, and then here and there they'll pop in life, memorable life moments, or when there's something that only they can do, or whatnot. But they're pretty busy in their own right out in the other dimensions. So it's not like they come in every day. I'd say at the when it comes to a family member like that, it's really clear. The signal is really clear, and they're just so happy to reconnect, and they're telling you, I'm okay. Some of them have even gone into a second life. So within a span of a month or so, we've gone into, and then it's like, wait a minute, is this the same person? And it's like, no, I'm in a second life. I've gone from now male Syrian to female Pleiadian or something. It's like,
oh my God, I didn't even think of that, because your guides would be transitioning as well while you're still alive. Like there'd be some overlap, maybe. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn,
it's
dude.
It's pretty immense. It's pretty intense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess it would just be like a recognition. So the reason I was asking is because I'm just kind of curious about if going from human to Syrian star god, what does that look like? Like, is that have to do with what you do here, or is that just like, oh man, I got off the human ride and that was amazing, I'm going to go ride the Syrian star god now, and then you go to that line and then you ride that next?
Oh, well, I'm getting a blast here. What I wanted to tell you was actually there was an episode. What he did tell me, I'm remembering right now, is that he gave me a phrase, which actually I was about to a short while later. I went to visit his family, and I was in LA in the house, and the house had some pretty negative vibes, to be quite honest. It was in Northridge where the earthquake was. And I ended up finding out there was some pretty wiggy beings, and they would screw with me when I would stay there. And he actually predicted what happened. It was really crazy. Out of nowhere, we had a kind of an interference event with his daughter. His younger daughter and I were there alone in LA, and just out of nowhere, we had sort of I don't know what you would call it, but we both she thought someone was breaking into the house, and we ended up having this whole like bad trip scenario where we had to run out of the house and like call the police and everything, and it ended up just being the dog clanking on the hardwood floor, clanking the cat food tin. Oh, so it was like this, but it sounded like someone was really at the door. So that was like some of these lower level beings and sort of the person who lived there was actually a famous Hollywood screenwriter. So there was some of that wiggy Hollywood black magic stuff there. And so anyway, that's a whole other thread, but yeah, they kind of see my light. And when I would stay there, just have a series of bad dreams and so anyway, he predicted that. And it was like, I think he was trying to warn us, but unfortunately we didn't really get it until it had happened.
That's wild, man. So yeah, like I said, so what are your thoughts on that then? What do you think happens after we die?
Oh, well, yeah, I think, sorry to keep avoiding your questions there.
No,
Sorry,
okay.
Well, I think definitely, I think the more we, the more we have, the more we're open to this ET reality, it is such a, it's going to be this new paradigm. So I think for those who are open spiritually, what we found is the ET guides really are involved with the ensoulment process and the reincarnation process and the soul review process. That gets into some sticky territory there, but I think it's definitely a free will thing. The ultimate thing is we should have ultimate choice. So breaking beyond the wheel of reincarnation. What I'm talking about here is more of like a higher dimensional, it's choosing your next life path, more so than just a looping reincarnation thing. So first off, I think for Earth humans, a lot of people are going to have options that they've never had before. So that's one amazing thing, we could see going on. And then the other thing is the ability to have to release a lot more burden and kind of miasm, they might call it, and kind of built up karma in the ancestral line, because that's what tethers us down a lot of times. So I think going back through the Akashic field of the family and stuff is a huge piece. And then also a lot of people choose to stick around, either reincarnate as another starseed or reincarnate as another being around the Earth to help with this ongoing process. So it's such an exciting place in space right now here, So, but I think the old treadmill of coming right back into this sort of one rail life path is over. So thank goodness, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's recent, or do you think that that's always been like that? The idea that you're stuck here is the trap.
Well, they talk about the whole negative astral soul recycling program and everything. I think so that these breakthroughs are recent, definitely. Yeah. So there's been a lot of cleanup on the fourth dimensional astral level, and we've had a lot of experience with that here in Japan, because in Japan, the usable land space here is only 20% of the entire land space. Japan is 80% mountainous. So what that translates is to people recycling the same plots of land, and they do a ritual, a Shinto ritual where they clear the land before a new house is built or whatnot. But sometimes that always doesn't do 100% of the trick. So 100% of the job. So we're very aware of that fourth dimensional spiritual sort of how would you call it, entity possession or land problems with land, hauntings and stuff here for sure.
Yeah. And now that you mention it, just before I forget it, any news from the nine-tailed fox? Did that just kind of fizzle out, or are you guys doing okay over there?
What's that?
The spirit of the nine-tailed fox, remember the rock that broke open? And then the nine-tailed fox came out. It was like 1,000-year-old rock that just broke in Japan.
No, I didn't hear about that.
You did not? You better be on the lookout, dude. Nine-tailed fox spirits running around. Yeah, it
There
was
you go.
this rock that was protected by, I believe, an emperor. I'm telling you something about Japan. I love this. I love this
I like
place.
that. Yeah, I love that.
And there's just like a rock that was there, and it was all memorialized and everything. It had like a little plaque, and allegedly the story goes that like this evil demon was trapped in there by an emperor, and then he would kill the next emperor whenever it opened or something like that. So it's trapped. It was trapped in this rock, but it just split open like this year.
Amazing.
Earlier. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Yeah. There's a lot of stories about that with the beings being put into a trap or underground and stuff. Yeah. That's an issue here. Yeah, interesting. Well, the one we did have was that being a large boulder tumbled from a cliff in Okinawa there, and on an island we often have amazing contact on called Ishigaki. So that's they talk about the mythological spirits of the islands, and that was a huge sign for the local people. And really, the energy did shift. Our friends and our collaborators who lived there really experienced a positive shift once that happened too.
From the boulder rolling down?
Yeah, it was like a 20-ton boulder that fell off a cliff, and it changed the shape of this. The mountain itself was supposedly a woman related to a male being on a nearby island, and they were mythologically lovers and stuff. And so she was able to go back to the place she belonged, and people interpreted that to mean that.
I love that kind of stuff. This is the thing I love about things like this. How cool is that? Even if it's not true, whatever. I mean, it's way cooler than just some rock fell off thing. No, now her spirit's free, and now we're all better for it. That's awesome to me.
Yeah, totally.
So in my mind, though, too, this rock I don't think was that big, and if it had that dangerous spirit in it, I don't know what the deal is with relocation, but you take it and you drop it in the ocean somewhere. You don't just leave it out in the open with a plaque. Not only that, people would come like to this thing and see it. So you're just asking for trouble in my mind. That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
that's a really good one. They call that the Tatari spirits, and they're spirits of vengeance and spirits of revenge. And it also ties into the post-war GHQ. MacArthur, General MacArthur was here, and there's a lot of researchers who talk about the fact that Americans strategically moved the ley lines because the Shinto shrines often create ley lines and grids. So Americans were aware of that. And then some researchers claim that, important power sites were changed or altered or moved on purpose, to kind of break down the energy grid here as more of a post-war effort to change society here. So that's been going on for a long, long time, though. That's not original to GHQ at all. So they also call it this, some people talk about the Fusui Wars, which is like even presidents of large companies and architects in Japan have done that in Tokyo, where it's like, the first thing is that governments build their sites on power sites, and we've often been to many amazing large castles and ancient government sites, which are just super energized and really, really natural power sites on the ley line grid. And then other people they'll build something in the way of that to block that flow. So the ancient people have always known about that. One element of it is called Onmyoji, and the city of Kyoto is built on a kind of like a checker grid. So that's been a part of the ancient Asian tradition here for centuries and millennia. So that's some interesting. Right now, I just happen to be in Ginza in Tokyo, and the famous Kabuki theater is right over here, 1 block away from me. And a lot of people say that the energy of that changed when they built this huge building right behind it. It's a high rise. It's the offices of the Kabuki theater, and they said that was like a no-no as far as the feng shui, the feng shui element. Yeah, it's called fusui in Japanese. So there's always people are quite aware of that here for sure.
Does it still mean wind and water?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So it's the exact same kanji characters. Yeah.
And what is it?
That's
one more time?
Chinese. What's that?
Oh, one more time on the pronunciation.
Fusui.
Awesome.
Yeah, wind is fu, and then sui is water. Yeah, music. Yeah, water.
You're full of all kinds of amazing information, and if nothing else, guys, you could say that you learned something here. So that's amazing. Yeah. This is incredible. So, okay, I want to ask you also about that suicide forest over there. What do you know about that thing?
Oh yeah, a good friend of mine from New York was with Vice News, and he did the sound on the. Everyone should see the Vice video on that one. And he did the sound. My friend Keen, he came over and did the sound work on that. It was famous from the Aokigahara, I think it's called. It's on the slopes of Mount Fuji. I believe it's on the Pacific Ocean side. The southern slopes are this huge remote forest where it was romanticized via a novel where the one of the people in the novel went there and committed suicide, and so that became a kind of a social tradition here. And so the police there are very aware of deserted cars and unfortunately the suicide rates here have been quite high due to the lack of the increased amount of stress and the overworked Japanese population and the lack of release, places to express yourself or be kind of be open and honest about how you're really feeling, kind of thing. So anyway, that's it's still an issue, but I think with all the increased security and surveillance that it's harder to go there and do that now. But we haven't. There's not really many hiking trails around there. Most the tour buses to Mount Fuji go up to the 5th station, which is above the tree line. So you do go through that area, but not many people are roaming around there on a day hike or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't know if there was something mystical about it, because you hear about a lot of paranormal stuff going on there. And I mean, I guess with all that, and I mean, really, it's like a dense energy area. So it's kind of a chicken and egg scenario. Is it that way because people were drawn to it to commit suicide there? Or is it that dense and energetic and draws people there because like a few people did it and then it just kind of became a domino effect?
Yeah, I think it's more of a domino effect. There's nothing, the area itself is actually quite high vibe. And that's an interesting phenomenon, because it's an interesting question, because we've done our contact work. We do contact retreats, and we've done we've done it in every prefecture in Japan right now over the last 10 years. So you really get to know the difference between areas that have had like ancient battles or and what I found is that when you're near the volcanoes seem to have this it's almost like a desert in a non-desert environment. It's what we found is that a lot of ghosts and paranormal activities require humidity. And that's part of the reason why there's a lot of ghost reports in England and also Japan here, because it's so humid and wet. So Texas, that's the opposite of Texas, where you are.
Well, Houston, it sucks because it's like that, because it's super humid. But that makes so much sense because of the water vapor in the air. Does that have something to do with it? Because air,
it has
because
something to do
water,
with it.
Yeah, because water, of
it's
course, is so
transducer.
spiritually. Yes. Damn.
Yeah. So when the volcanoes seem to have, they're very dry. They're a lot drier than other places in the lowlands or on the coast. So what I found is that astrally, volcanoes are normally less about. They're less. The ability to haunt them, or the ability for disincarnates to be to stay there is it's harder for them to do, or it's just a naturally more difficult environment. So yeah, I would say definitely that it was just so happened to be a totally human thing. And there is a military, a Japanese Defense Army training base near there, and a lot of spiritualists have come over from abroad to work on the Mount Fuji area, and it's a huge power site. And I've been inside there in dream contact as well. I was inside the volcano once or twice. Yeah, and then a friend of mine from Hopi, Ruben, he's from the water tribe of Hopi in the Second Mesa, and he comes over here once a year, and he showed me, and he told me an amazing story where when he climbed up, the goddess of Mount Fuji is what's called Konosaki Hime, and she's a female spirit, and she welcomed him, and he actually was able to take a picture of the of her kind of energy in this orb. So he took a nap on the crater rim when they got to the top. He kind of laid down and took a short cat nap, and he went into a dream state, like a trance state, where he saw this beautiful long black-haired princess in the kimono and everything. And so the spirit of Mount Fuji welcomed him and for the work he was going to be doing in Japan. Yeah.
That's a cool thing to have on your resume.
Yeah.
I like that a lot, man.
And then he woke up and took a picture of the crater, and there was this like giant blue orb right in front of the camera. So she appeared in an orb form too. Yeah.
How cool is that? When you went in your dream state, what was inside the volcano?
I saw the giant, the kind of black rock, magma rocks, or just a huge open space. And I could see the slope, because it's a very beautiful, smooth slope to the entire mountain when you're climbing. So it was sort of like the external slopes all inverted inside, But yeah,
Like the pitch on the inside of a roof.
yeah, yes, that's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
What was there like a city in there? Were there like beings and stuff hanging out? Woolly mammoths and
No,
shit?
I didn't have a lot of memory. No, I didn't have a lot of memory, but yeah, it's just I remember just being in there and I was doing something. So yeah, that's as far as I got. But
That's awesome. What do you think about the Hollow Earth?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that's we've had experiences where a lot of the ships and we experience in Japan are coming from inside the Earth. So they're definitely from the very get go of my experience there at Mount Adams, was seeing the ground lights, and Mount Adams is a huge stargate, and the ships coming in and out of the mountains. So that idea was I met that got familiar with that idea since 2007 or so, and then we had a ton of experience right from the get go with lights coming out from the ocean and from inside of mountains and everything. So yeah, that's a really big piece to it.
Man, that's cool. I love the Hollow Earth stuff, man. That's fascinating to me. So,
Yeah.
what about have you ever seen any UFOs around volcanoes? Because I know that there is a connection. Good buddy Darcy Weir made a movie about it. It's an awesome documentary about volcanoes and UFOs. So
I'll have to see that. Yeah.
Oh, it's very cool. I think Amazon Prime. Yeah, very cool and
Okay.
great dude. Darcy's awesome.
What's the title of that?
UFOs and volcanoes.
Okay.
Or
yeah,
the
easy
inverse,
enough.
volcanoes and UFOs, one of those two. Put those words in any order and
Okay.
Darcy Weir, and it'll pop up. But there is this connection with UFOs and volcanoes, and a lot of times active-ass volcanoes where they're spewing magma and lava, and then a UFO pops out. And we know that that's not tremendously exciting for them because they can do any of that stuff, but it's still pretty cool. It kind of rules the heat test out, visually for us.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. One of the places when I first landed in Japan was Western Japan, the island of Kyushu, and that's extremely actively volcanic. Nagasaki Prefecture has one that erupted called Unzen, and that was featured in Werner Herzog's Netflix documentary. That was an amazing one. I forget the name of that one, but that came out 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Amazing filming. And the two volcanic premier researchers, the couple passed in that one. They got too close to the flow, and they were a part of the maybe 16 people or so that were victimized in that eruption. And then also the Aso. The largest caldera on Earth is the Aso Kuju National Park. That's also in the center of the island of Kyushu. And also we've got the one that most people in the West know, Sakurajima. That was the one in about 2011 where you had the video from the Japanese government where a lot of the ships were coming in and out.
Yes.
Yeah. So that we spent a lot of time down there, and it's right next to the city. So just the power, I felt it going, the power increasing over the years. And yeah, so it's we've had a lot of experience with that for sure. The big one that tied into that was that I had a premonition of the Kumamoto earthquake. The second largest earthquake after 3/11 Fukushima was the Kumamoto earthquake in 2016, I believe, 2016 or 17, and that one was we had a lot of ships and activity before the earthquake in that Aso National Park. Tons of ground lights. They were coming up from inside of the Earth, and what we gathered was that they were preparing and kind of holding down the earthquake for the right time. And actually, scientists were baffled because the way the ground slid, and it created these waves in directions that were totally different from the actual quake itself. So there were some scientific anomalies there too. So we definitely get into the fact that the ships are not only inside the Earth, but they're also helping, with controlling the flow of magma and holding down calamity so it's not too damaging.
Damn. So in that case, then it would seem like they care and that they want to minimize, I don't know, disaster if they can. But it also seems like if they're able to do that, they should. One might argue that they could avert any disaster. Why let them happen in the first place? How do they pick and choose?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, I mean, that most of it is on a global scale, a tectonic level, as far as the whole Earth. Not only protecting humans, but it's helping the Earth in her process of her evolution. But then on the other hand, the people have just wondered like why didn't they step in on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and things like that. Right now, though, we have one situation where I don't know if you're aware that Tokyo is overdue for a 10 magnitude 10 class quake, and Tokyo is the largest populated city on Earth. So that is one that we're definitely getting the message that they're holding back on. I've moved back to Tokyo from Western Japan in the last couple of years and really felt the taste of the earthquakes here. They've been on an uptick lately, and so the topic is always in the back of people's minds here. Mount Fuji eruption and the big one in Tokyo, the big earthquake in Tokyo. So those are two that are definitely not going to happen. We've gotten a very, very strong message, and it's obvious that most of the quakes in the last couple of years have been in the middle of the night, where all the trains are stopped, people are at their calm, the society is asleep. So
kind of like it has to release, but they can control the release to where it does minimal effect.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And they spread them out in the very general vicinity. So yeah, this weekend I'm actually going up to Fukushima to interview the new UFO research museum, the owner of that, and so we've got that whole Fukushima Tokyo connection. So the fact that the huge earthquake occurred in Fukushima was actually a blessing compared to how much damage it would have caused if it had been in Tokyo. Because if you look at the historical record, the major Tokyo earthquakes have been right in the city. I mean, they're right in the city. I'm talking like if it was Manhattan, Times Square style, direct hit. So that would cause such chaos and damage. The country would basically stop, and the amount of collateral damage would just really be uncalculable. So that's one we've gotten the message that they're definitely not going to let happen. So yeah, they've got news shows and CG. They've done all sorts of CGI, and they've made anime movies about it, like because it's never been this populated, and there's never been this many high-rise buildings in with it during the time that there's been a large earthquake in Tokyo. So no one knows how bad it would really be, and then of course the tsunami risk and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's one thing that we've gotten a clear message from the guides that they're not going to let that timeline manifest.
That's interesting. But again, it says, okay, well, then the things that did happen had to have happened, like Fukushima, like the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombs, because they, I guess, essentially let those things happen. Yeah. Well, there's sort of like a ratio of how much life would actually be affected or damaged. I mean, it's hard to imagine from our point of view, but like to put a quality marker on that as far as numbers go. But I wouldn't say that anything like that for sure. But it's they have their reasons, and in the total ascension, ascension drama here, there's all these pieces have a role to play. So those are things we'll all figure out once we get to the other side, I guess. Yeah, and philosophically, that's one of the tough ones, because when you think of this, then you think of, okay, well, they have like a chronovisor, and we have all these like Project Looking Glass and all that awesome stuff about being able to see or travel into the future or whatever, past, or see the past at least. So if they have something like this and the technology to be able to manipulate it, then perhaps they can, extrapolate out of time. Okay, well, if this Fukushima thing happens, this is how much damage will be caused over how much time and people and whatever. But if it doesn't occur, then this happens, and it's like way worse, dude. So we're just going to let this thing happen. Yeah,
so it's a timelines. Yep.
Yeah, it is. And so that's kind of one of the things with like the hard questions, like Hitler. Like, why didn't they just stop Hitler? If you can time travel, why didn't you stop Hitler? And the answer is, if time travel is real and you can do it, then whatever you stopped by letting Hitler continue to be Hitler, and then stopping him when he did whatever he did, was far worse than whatever Hitler did. Yeah. It's that weird thing. You just don't know,
Yeah, that's really getting into the ET perspective, where they're checking out different timelines and potentials. Yeah, for sure. That's interesting.
I want to ask then, do you think that they're just messing with stuff, and that if they just left things alone, and life would progress in a certain way, cataclysms would come, cataclysms would go, and then just, quit messing with it? Everybody makes fun of, I never watched it, but the Flash show on TV, I think WB or something like that, they had the Flash. But he kept going back in time and changing stuff, and the whole series is basically like all the seasons are him fixing what he screwed up in time by screwing with time. So is this something that the ETs are doing? They're kind of scrambling around, these grays just bumping into each other, like, oh, we shifted timelines again.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first off, I want to just say that I worked quite. I often talk about that in my Japanese lectures and stuff, and offer that perspective, because people have a tendency to especially now with the whole underground base wars and that all that stuff, the people always have a tendency to now spin things into conspiracy, and we have amazing video proof from that Kumamoto area. That was something I experienced directly, and we had a whole lead up to that earthquake, and people will simply fall into the there was a high radiation level at the military base there in the days before, so this was a man-made earthquake. So the man-made earthquake theory takes precedence, and then I've been trying to show people, well, look, there's a larger picture, there's a larger piece to this. Yeah, so I think you could say like there's a lot of maybe timeline wars, so different agendas are involved. So World War II is a huge one where not so friendly, maybe I would say not so friendly to humanity agendas, came about there, and so people like Hitler and even the Japanese were used as puppets. So that's a whole other story. But so what I find is what is it? It's like a tree branch where we have that main timeline, and then there's all these other ones that branch off. So the possibilities are infinite, but there's also higher probability. So they are able to calculate which ones are going to be most probable. And now we're getting into the fact that we can change our timeline ourselves. So we're able to override timelines. So the more humanity wakes up and takes part with the support, takes active part in the support that's being offered, we're able to continually raise that main timeline. Yeah, so that's another one we get as far as a message.
What do you think about a wild card theory? Because I was talking to somebody about this. I forget, it escapes me now, but this like wild card theory, to where yes, there is these probabilities and there's this either or, but there's like a third dimension to this thing. These options of randomness can occur that are considered like a quantum like wild card.
Sure, of course. See, that there's that obviously like the source field, that all we're talking about beings that are in between source light, source, the source of everything, and us, and they have limited control as well. They have things that they weren't able to predict, and they make mistakes and everything like that. So they're not perfect either. So yeah, it's so these corrections have been corrections have been made on the highest level to kind of help us help turn the tables in our favor. That's what I really believe. Yeah, I feel.
Yeah.
So the wild card is that the sort of X factor that pulses in. It's the life force. It's the course correction from sources from unimaginably high levels. Yeah,
like that weird freak strength, or that weird thing to where something falls and somebody can catch it, but it's like so many tons or whatever. These weird anomalies that occur, they could be like fractures of this, expressed in this way.
But one thing, people, just to touch back on that World War II point, because I know that gets really taboo. And just to let people know that there's how many different conspiracy theories and alternative. I like to call it alternative history, but how many different alternative histories are out there? Is that many people in the Japanese spiritual community or researchers here, several people are open to the idea that the Japanese emperor willingly was cooperating with the atomic bomb project. Or with the whole Pearl Harbor thing, and the Japanese knew that was going to happen, and so there's all sorts of theories about how the history is not as we know it at all, basically. So their people here are have gone beyond the victim role, and kind of they're willing to take into account that the bad guys in World War II were also involved in things that they weren't aware of. The bad guys and the good guys are in one story, but then from an interdimensional perspective, it's a whole other story, right?
Yeah, it's got to be. But yeah, they say FDR, nobody wanted to go to war, World War II in the U.S., and so they let Pearl Harbor happen, is the story as it goes. Australia, again, allegedly radioed in, and FDR just let it happen. He let it happen because he wanted to bring America into the war. Let me ask you a question just real quick, and then we'll get back on topic, because I'm just curious about this. I've never asked anybody that close to Japan. What do the Japanese think of the Americans?
Oh yeah, we're definitely amazing allies now, and yeah, they think we're, they look up to us as far as the amount of freedom and the freedom of expression and creativity, and I think they, it's been a it's been a kind of a strange soul connection where our post-war interactions, we have been very mutually beneficial. So you might say, and they've grown to be a huge world economy, powerhouse in the world economic stage and everything. And then their ability to what they call kaizen is like they're not they have their Japanese culture and cultural innovations were really active in the 16th and 17th, 18th centuries. But now they kind of they fine tune Western inventions. That's the as we've seen with electronics and automobiles and things like that. So we're the creators, and then they refine it. So it's an interesting relationship, like the bicyclist, the bike maker, and then the pro cyclist. It's sort of an interesting marriage of skills. Yeah, but yeah, I think they're as far as the self-expression, I think they definitely wish they could be more open and assertive, personally assertive. I think that's on a personal Japanese level. Most people hold themselves back. They're very restrained, and humble is one word, but then restrained is more accurate. I think I think once they go abroad, a different part of them is able to be. The beast can roar, a different part of them is able to be expressed. So yeah, Japanese people who have lived abroad or studied abroad have a much more relaxed take on life. So it's great to see all different people from all different walks of life here.
Yeah, they have a broader view of life. So yeah. I'm going to say 2 words. I'm going to let you run on it. Okay, mass contact.
Okay, wow, there you go. Yeah, so what we've over the last 10 years, JCETI, our main efforts have been with the CE5 contact movement and doing direct field work in the in power sites and all sorts of places in nature in Japan. So we've had over the years over 6,000 or so visitors and participants to our events. So I like to say the words mass contact because we're doing that as a group, and the resonance of this field effect of conscious awakening is super prevalent here. I think it's mass contact for me means the population here is the amount of people who can gather under this topic is pretty impressive. So that spreads, and then they share it with their friends, and so we're heading towards mass contact globally is what that means for me as well. So the Japan here is for me in a way a template for what can be possible in other countries and coming out. It only takes a few seconds of a sighting, or it only takes a few seconds of interacting with this interdimensional ET phenomenon to really deeply awaken and realize what's at stake as well.
Awesome, man. Great. Again, well articulated.
Thank you. Yeah.
I am curious to say, I know that you have had contact, you have intuitions on this. Do you think that you have it pretty figured out as far as what the extraterrestrial phenomena is?
Let me continue. That's your question. Actually, the second piece is going to come in. So what I was going to say is mass contact. The other part of it is that it's not a personal thing, because for me, a lot of times we hear what we've heard in this ET UFO realm is a lot of personal experience, right? And that's been great up until now. But honestly, a lot of times it just hits you as really, it's from an energetic level, it's really oppressive. I find when you really start to and a lot of people give their power away to experiencers or people with actually no proof at all. So mass contact for me is it's not my personal thing. It's the really powerful experience is the shared experience. So I kind of cringe when people really miss that point. And so we're saying the contact, what I want to say is the contact we're providing, or this open group contact is, and what that provides is an out. It's an exit to the kind of feedback loop that we've had where, I've had this experience, hey, believe me, or I've had this experience, so you should base your entire cosmology on my experience, which is just insane, So repeat your question again, sorry.
Oh, actually, I wanted to ask you one more thing on this. Apologies. With these mass contact events and with having everyone in this same mental space at the same time. It kind of reminds me of an ayahuasca ceremony. You are visited by something that is there to change your life. You do it in a group setting. You mentally focus in on an intention, and then you are changed in a way. And usually it happens very personally. It's very personal experience. I don't experience the same thing as the guy next to me or girl next to me, or whatever. So do you compare the two? Do you think that they're fairly similar?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It's an interesting paradox. Like you have the group field, the group energy, and there's a group consciousness, but then also that drills down into a personal experience as well. So it's an amazing kind of paradox there. And then as far as but then at the same time, maybe something like ayahuasca is more of a subjectively based one, whereas our goal in the ET contact is actually more of an objective. Both are important, but at first, I think the objective element of a ship appearing and a 5 sense level, that's a really breakthrough experience, because whether it be a shamanic experience or a visionary experience or a channeling message or a dream contact, a lot of that subjective, we might be able to be assured and sure of it ourselves, but it's hard to share that with others, right? So the objective experience is amazing and unique because it's undeniable, and it's 5 sense, it's provable, we can film it, and that can be then shared with others. So I think both are super important, and the actual objective and subjective, they're tied together in an infinite. We got a symbol 2 years ago, the infinity mark, because even with CE5, it's the internal meditation and remote viewing, and the protocols involve deep introspection, and then it ends up translating in externally visible phenomenon, whether that be transceivers and walkie-talkies bleeping, and then the ships that appear in the sky visually. So it's what we got this amazing message from during a contact event over a long weekend was that the infinite mark, the figure 8, the Mabius mark, is the infinite connection of the internal world and the external world.
Yeah, the as above, so below thing, like the torus field. Yeah,
they're threaded together. Yeah.
Man, this man, when you get philosophical with this stuff, and I love talking about this, you talk about how like the earth is actually this torus field, right? It's not round, it's not flat, it's not any of that. From your perception, it's whatever you want, but it constantly recycles in on itself and then carrying the energy back into itself and then back in to create itself anew. And I love this kind of concept, man. This type of stuff, and especially when you think of this as like a fractal universe where, let's say that the concept of like a hollow earth, okay? So you have a ball, it's hollow on the middle of that, but what if even that, we're on the inside of something else, like a hollow earth, and then they're on the inside of something else, and so it's this fractal thing, but where it gets even trippier is if each of those dimensions is the same thing. It's just different things going on in them, like this infinite out, but it's just you the whole damn time. Right. You're just looking at like the back of your head looking out at you. Yeah,
it's crazy, yeah.
It's wild, man. Yeah. No, so I wanted to ask those because you have had contact and you've got an intuitive contact. Do you think that you have a handle on kind of what this thing is? You have, as much as you could, do you think you have a pretty good line on, okay, I know it's not this, it's probably more likely that?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a very slow, I've been really severe. My kind of process of self-checking and self-doubt has been really intense. I definitely never wanted to ever, share anything that I didn't experience personally or wasn't really, really sure of. So everything I talk about is based on experience and has been checked and double checked, triple checked. So, and the fact that our research is through these events where other people are there. So it's just not my personal subjective experience only, So, but through that, we've had the repeatability, and the repeatable cycles of how, these sort of missions come in and projects for each year, the different things we've been asked to do and been guided to do. So I get in the end is that after the first couple of years of this contact work, I really got the definite message and was sure that this is part of this larger quote unquote ascension process. And, Japan is playing a big role in that. So, it's been full on since we've started. So, even during the lockdowns and on the last couple of years, we've been doing all this media, TV appearances, and it's been really chock-a-block. But I think that Japan's been playing a role in that energetically big time, and so it's exciting to be on the front edge of this. I call it the front end lines of Ascension.
Yeah.
So
agreed. Yeah.
So, but yeah, basically, shows like yours are right there, and I think we're really transitioning into this mass awakening. So all the pieces and all the keywords we've known up until now have been kind of creating a stage for the actual real performance to occur on. So now where all the stars are aligning and the spotlights are on. So now it's going to be really, I think from 2022 on, it's going to be even more amazing.
Man, you get me fired up, dude. I share your enthusiasm and your optimism. I'm a chronic optimist on this as well. And so I again share the hell out of this with you. I think we're just getting started. And if you look at this like a play, like Dolores Cannon's, and this idea has been around for a long time, like this is a play and we're just actors, but waking up is you realizing you're the actor, not the character you've been playing, and everybody else is playing these characters. A lot of people are. But that's what this is. And it's like this has just been a practice. They're like, okay, wake up, everybody. That's what the awakening is. All right, now take what you've learned so far, and we're going to move into this next thing and go. And it just like starts now. So I'm with you on this. Again, man, you get me fired up, Greg. I love this.
Yeah. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and people as they wake up, there's a lot of traps and kind of dead ends and all that stuff. So it's really staying centered and grounded and true to your own signal. Like I like to call it the home tone. True to your own source of life force and your own source of inspiration. So for me, that's what, music has always been an unwavering, sorts of a beacon for me, over the years too. So yeah, people should stay tuned to their own, the sound, the music of their own spirit, and don't get swayed by the kind of intense media barrage and the weaponization of a lot of these agendas has been just mind-blowing the last couple of years. So trying to avoid those pitfalls is another part of this as well.
Yeah. ET home tone. I love it. That's a Mandela effect. Have you heard that?
Yeah. Yep.
Which one do you remember?
The Mandela, which one? The home tone?
Yeah. ET, did he say ET phone home or ET home phone?
ET phone home. Right.
Yeah. Never happened. You're from my dimension. Good deal.
All right. I had a woman who had one of those speaking spells, and the guides would use it. Her guides would use that to communicate with her. So even with the power off, I had video of it. She would ask it a question, and it would answer, and it would beep in response. It was amazing.
God, that's cool. How cool is that? Speak and spell. That's amazing. All right. I like the medium. That's fun. Rather than like a Casio or something like that. Or Bumblebee. Right? The Transformer who speaks through the radio. I dig it.
Yes.
All right. Well, before I turn you loose, man, and this has been amazing. All the ways, of course, to find you will be located down in the show notes, guys. So make sure that you check them out. Of course, dude. You're welcome any damn time. Let's just touch on a little bit of Japan's esoteric hidden history.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a whole other topic we'd love to get into next time. So we've got, a lot of the language barrier is so intense here. And what I found was that, when 2012 was happening, the Japanese were really talking a lot about this esoteric tradition or a series of automatic writings that was received by a Shinto priest in the late 40s, early 50s called Hifumi Shinji, Hifumi, which is the 1, 2, 3 writings it's called. And they were talking about, he predicted the 3/11 earthquake kind of thing and this sort of mass spiritual awakening and all that stuff. So not quite end times, but he was talking about things that are way beyond the spectrum of what he would have been able to access at the time. So people refer to that as one of these sort of like esoteric Japanese traditions that ties into the current situation. And then also we've had a lot of the petroglyph researchers and ancient cultures and sort of ancient relics here that have been once the imperial system was established, were really kind of like boycotted. And so those ancient writing scripts, and some of them are called katakana, and they're systems of writings and symbols, like basically Japanese hieroglyphs. Cool. So those are like pre-Egyptian, perhaps even pre-Sumerian. So there's a lot of researchers here working with those texts and everything. So I hope to be able to share those with the English-speaking world in the future. Yeah.
Damn, that's cool. Yeah, just translate that up for us, brother. We'd really appreciate that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Greg, thank you so much, dude. We will have you back on to do the Japanese hidden esoteric history. I can't wait for that one. I've got a couple buddies, actually. We'll do a group chat on that. That'll be cool.
Yes. Definitely, Brendan. Thank you so much. It was really fun today.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was just going to say all the ways to find him, guys, of course, located down in the show notes. Greg Sullivan, thank you so much for your time, brother. Come back anytime. You have a home here anytime you want it, man.
Thanks a lot. It was great to be expanding reality with you. It's awesome. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks so much. Let's do it again soon.
Just an absolutely fascinating guy, one of the best resources that we have when it comes to things like this, and he covers the gamut, which I love. He's just got a vast perception on this thing, which is, I think, necessary, and that is what's going to take us into this next level. So Greg Sullivan, all the ways to find him, guys, are located down in the show notes. Make sure that you check him out. Also down there is going to be our affiliate links, Food Forest Abundance, Get Your Freedom from Fear on. If you want to start your podcast, you might as well start out with 2 months free. Use who I host through, which is Libsyn. That link is down there as well. If you were going to buy any damn thing at all on Amazon, go ahead and feed that beast through our link. It helps the show. It is down there. Also, a resource link for you guys to check out if you've had any paranormal encounters, any abduction type phenomena, anything strange that you think that you just want to talk to and report and maybe get with a community on. Check out the resource link, Opus, which is the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. Check that thing out, guys. Absolutely amazing. Also, if you guys want to expand your experience with us here on the show, you can do so at expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's going to be links for all the socials. Merchandise is over there. We do the live replays over there if you don't catch them live. Also, you can become an expansive insider. It's a great way to support the show, and that's how you do that. So let's go out into this amazing world, guys, collectively, and let's just all pledge to each other that the next time that we're faced with anything in life, good, bad, whatever, however you want to perceive it, you take it as an opportunity to be a greater, grander version of yourself every time, and just watch the magic happen. While you're doing all that, of course, pick up a piece of litter if you don't mind. Buy somebody around a coffee or a meal in line around you, something like that. Something small, but it goes a long way, right? Also, get out of the left-hand lane. It's a big pain in the ass for you driving in the left-hand lane. You got somebody behind you wanting to pass, so just move on over. That helps with the vibe, of course. Out of everything else, guys, go out into this beautiful place, whatever the hell this thing is, and y'all just be good to one another. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.